everyone. Welcome back to Exiger Nexus. We've got Carrie Wibben, Brandon Daniels, and Matt Hayden. I'd like to try something new this time. We're going to do a rapid fire round. What's on everyone's mind? Carrie, go.
Okay, so I think biggest topic, obviously, that's been consuming all of our bandwidth lately is the pending Russian invasion of the Ukraine, and I'd love to touch on also the sort of evolving and strengthening relationship between China and Russia as well.
Okay, big topic. Brandon.
I'd like to talk about the same thing, but I'd like to talk specifically about the sanctions that could impact our customers due to the conflict.
All right, and Matt.
All those things and relating to cyber and the vulnerabilities that they tie back to.
Yeah, so I think the pending and potential Russian invasion of Ukraine, the timing of the Olympics and the closing ceremonies, the closure of the Belarus military exercises, and the current status of just the obviously very sensitive ongoing diplomatic efforts are really, to me, all potentially coming to a critical point and juncture this week. So I'm very concerned, about obviously what we've been spending a lot of time on for our federal clients the last couple of weeks is the potential impact that all of these countermeasures that the U.S. and our allied partners might place on Russia, and really the impact that could have on the global market and also U.S. citizens. So that is something, it's consuming all of us right now for very purposeful reasons. But zooming out just a bit, I think for me, the even bigger thing I'm very concerned about, and I think it kind of gets lost in all of the reporting around Russia and Ukraine, is just the very clear and undeniable strengthening of the Russian and Chinese partnership, strategic alliance, economic and military relationship, which I think for me, it just presents such a massive threat to the free world. And really China and Russia, just undeniably threatening the international order, but I think with very different goals. Russia very focused on and preoccupied almost with its immediate, post-Soviet neighborhood. And then China obviously has much bigger global ambitions. And, as the former head of counterintelligence for DOD, I had no shortage of things to lose sleep over, but probably the most significant was China and Russia really getting cozy and partnering to the full extent of that potential, which I've been watching this very closely. And, the relationship really has just been getting stronger and stronger over the past few months. When Putin visited Beijing in December 2021, I think that visit really solidified this united front that we're now seeing. And after that meeting, there was a top Russian official, I can't remember the name, but commented in the media that that relationship now actually far exceeds just an alliance. And so, the two leaders, they even discussed, forming an independent financial infrastructure to reduce their reliance on Western banks and overall vulnerability to sanctions, right? So everything we're considering now. So those economic ties between China and Russia are close and strengthening and significant. And, I think the Chinese economic dependence on Russia is just, it's just massive. And so I think in a way, interestingly, you got to just zoom out and think about and really consider how China actually stands to be almost the biggest winner or loser in the decision by Russia to invade the Ukraine. So it's really fascinating, terrifying at the same time. But Brandon, I would love to hear some of your thoughts on the potential impact of various sanctions and some of the other diplomatic efforts being considered.
Yeah, I mean, your point that China stands to be the biggest winner or loser is exactly right. For anyone that's watching this, that's been watching Billions, the one thing that they focused on this season is that the place where value alignment, where values, where conceptual alignment splits is with money. And where the Chinese ambitions and the Russian ambitions split is in sanctions, right? So China needs to conduct business in the US dollar. You're not going to get Russian oil pipe or gas pipelines to China. You're not going to have transatlantic cabling. You're already seeing the EU retrench with US in its fiber optic cabling ventures. You're not going to see economic growth like you need to see as a Chinese government official if you are aligning yourself with Russia and they are subject to sanctions. And so this is where we're going to see some interesting splits, where we're going to see some interesting diplomatic efforts to make sure that China understands how they imperil themselves by continuing to strengthen and harden that relationship. From our clients' perspective, what I'm seeing is everybody is getting ready to deal with the sanctions, right? The second those sanctions are enforced, you have to stop doing business with all of those Russian entities that you once had business relationships with. Those are in the technology sectors. Those are in the raw materials and goods sectors. I mean, Russia, they for better or for worse, fabricate a lot of the major metals that we use in our buildings, in our ships, and everywhere, right? And so you have to think long and hard about those relationships right now before sanctions are imposed so that you can start to diversify your supply chain. The last thing I would say, and I think that this is a really interesting one, is 889 gave us the first example of supply chain sanctions, where sanctions were not applicable to just you and transacting with an entity, but downstream, you could have strict liability for having adversarial products of the enemy inside of our goods. So even if you're not transacting with them, even if those transactions happen in a diplomatically sensible way, now you're subject to the strict liability of having put them into US government delivered products. So this is a new world. So I can't just look at who I'm doing business with. I have to know who they're doing business with, and they're doing business with, and they're doing business with if entities get sanctioned. And I hear and I can see that that's where the government is going. They're looking for more opportunities to use the FAR to really create real impact in our global economic market. So Carrie, I think you're dead on. In the end, China's got an opportunity here to look after themselves and to harken back to another show, Succession, to do what's in their best interest here. So that's my view, and I'll turn it over to Matt.
Two things. You're seeing both a conflict zone in which you have directly Ukrainian and Russian cyberspace engaging, and you have what's considered a noisy environment, and where you have the conflict of these two countries leading to all sorts of hardening across the internet, because everyone knows that it's everyone that is a bad guy on the internet, whether they're cyber criminals or we're talking about North Korea or China or other cyber adversaries, will take advantage of a noisy environment. The great news is that the government has stepped up in sharing what these vulnerabilities, what they're seeing these state actors using and what they're seeing criminals use, and they're getting them out. The bad news is it's not a short list. And so they're having to really prioritize, okay, we are seeing state actors act right now on these particular vulnerabilities. And what that means for our customers and clients is we have to communicate that with them and their supply chain, just like with Log4j. This is something that is immensely important to patch right now so that we don't have something that gets used in this conflict noisy zone that spirals out of control across all the critical sectors and interrupts business worldwide, which has happened as late as 2017 and others. So vulnerability management sounds simple, but it catches up to us really quickly with these types of high elevated situations.
I don't think 10 minutes is enough. And you got to Succession on this Valentine's Day. So the direct path to my heart. Happy Valentine's Day to everybody. This is an enriching conversation. I always learn a lot, and I hope our listeners do too. So tune in next time, and